think so. My plea is that thank you all the panelists. Also, my plea is that please fasten your seat belt because we are going to take you for a ride all throughout the life cycle approach and the first areas of nutrition, starting from the foundation, the first 1,000 golden days of life, the revised definition for infancy. Now it is up to second birthday is considered as infancy. Early infancy is from 1 to 12 months, and late infancy is 12 to 24 months. That is to cover the breastfeeding period. Then toddlers, the terrible threes, the preschoolers, the school child, and the creamy layer adolescents. And we have moved from IYCN to MIYCN. Now that it has landed up with the MIYCN, that is maternal, infant, and young child and adolescent nutrition. Let us start with the breastfeeding, which is the strength and warmth. And I couldn't find any better picture. That is the love and the warmth and whatnot, the immunity, the brain growth, everything imparted to the baby from the mother. I think the WHO data is an eye-opener. It was an eye-opener to me. That is, if you delay breastfeeding for 1 hour, that is 2 to 23 hours, there is 33% higher chance of dying within 28 days. And if it is delayed beyond 1 day, 200% chance for child, the risk of dying. So my question is that how many of us insist on recording the first feed in every newborn baby? We record the first cry, the first meconium, the first urine, etc., etc. But I think that if we start recording the first feed in every newborn and why it could not be started within an hour, and that itself will make a big intervention. And the National NFHS survey for 2015 to 16 showed that early initiation is as low as 41.6%. Now, I would like to ask Dr. Satish Tiwari. He is the apostle for breastfeeding and the IMS Act. Breast milk is a lifesaver to millions of infants. Still, why we are not capitalizing on it? Why do we fail in achieving the goal of early initiation soon after birth beyond 50%, despite majority being hospital delivery?
Thank you, Elizabeth, madam, for this opportunity. And I think the reason why we are not able to achieve the early initiation. Now we all know that early initiation is best start in the life. It gives skin to skin contact. It increases the long-term secretion. Feeding problems are less in future. The breast related problems are less. And according to many of us, it is the 4th stage of labor or the 8th para during the marriage which should be taken. Breast milk is species specific as well as gestation specific, and we know the human milk contains only 1 gram per 100 ml while the rabbit milk contains 15 gram. And breastfeeding is also natural, tailor-made for the baby. Babies need mom-made and not man-made. And for early initiation, we can start the feeding by breast crawl, even in LSCS babies. The early initiation decreases the mortality by 16% and proper complementary by another 6%. So total around 22% of mortality under 5 will decrease with proper breastfeeding. In spite of this, even the WHO says that the breastfeeding is the best, and in the absence of breastfeeding, the option is express breast milk or donated milk, and there is no advantage of artificial feed. As you rightly said, according to NFHS 4 data, initiation in first hour is only 41.6%. And the reason for all this is that, now this is the most important part which we have to understand, that there is a lack of collaboration between obstetrician and pediatrician. The mother and child diet, which should be kept as a single, is divorced. We are too busy to discuss with the parents or the mother. There is no time to discuss with the relatives. At the same time, there is a lot of unscientific, biased and misguided information available to the parents or the relatives. Lactation failure is accepted as a common problem, and we leave no attempt to decrease the mother's confidence, while actually we should build the mother's confidence. So we have all failed in our responsibility in promoting the breastfeeding.
Thank you, Dr. Satish Tiwari, for that excellent learning experiences even from the animal kingdom. So in the animal kingdom, we see a passive mom and active babies. So when are we going to make the babies active so that they can crawl to the breast? Now we put them in the most helpless manner, that is the supine position, when the mother has to do everything. The active mom and the passive baby. That is the rule that we follow. We have to go back to this passive mom, active baby rule. And we have to think out of the box solutions. Baby-led breastfeeding and breast crawling was highlighted. Sometimes we can even go for areola feeding in flat nipple and alternate hold. See, the U hold may help and the cross cradle also may help. See, this is how the baby-led breastfeeding is done, and this is the cross cradle method that we can follow. Now, Dr. Satish Tiwari, what is the role of industries in this contest and the power of IMS Act as a remedial measure?
As we discussed that there has been a lot of misinformation and wrong information by the industry and by many of our colleagues also. So keeping this in view, the Indian government came with the IMS Act in 1992, and though it was not that effective, then it was amended in 2003. So now we have amended, and according to this amended IMS Act, for the violation of the various provisions of this Act, there are penalties which include imprisonment and fine up to 5,000 rupees. Still, what is happening? There is lot of violation of IMS Act. We can see these photographs. Many companies, they are sponsoring the seminars and webinars for our colleagues. The pharmacy stores, they are full of formula milk or with the animal milk and the options of bottle feeding and the various cereals. And because of this, because of there is limitations of IMS Act, it is for infant food up to 2 years, which should not be used according to IMS Act. But unfortunately, we find that it is used after 6 months of the age. In the pharmacy or chemist, it is over-the-counter sale continues. Monitoring and follow-up by our own colleagues and others is not satisfactory. And that's why these companies are breaking the law, not in only in words, but also in spirit. There are many pediatricians and our colleagues and obstetricians which have become voices of these IMS Act companies. They promote the IMS Act product and their sponsored programs, and that is why the Act is not taking what it should have been done. So what we have to do, we have to promote this Act, we have to promote and support the breastfeeding, and this we have to do with activism and a proper guidance. We have to keep in mind that because God cannot be everywhere, that's why He created the mother, and even in twins, we can have exclusive breastfeeding. So finally, the carry-home message is that breastfeeding is natural, instinctive, and physiological. It is mother's as well as child's birthright. There are no advantages of artificial feeding. Rather, there are definite disadvantages of artificial feeding. So we should not be blind followers of the Western countries. The parents and health workers concept must be clear. And we have to remember that only law is not the answer. We have to be very effective activists to protect, promote, and support the breastfeeding. What I would like to summarize with: give the world the best you have. It may not be enough, but still give the world the best you have got anyway. And give this tiny treasure the best start in the life with human milk. That is the breast milk. For this, we have come together with these various organizations So coming together is beginning, keeping together is progress, and working together is success. Alignment has been one of the most important our partner. They are sponsoring today's, they have provided us the platform for this webinar and the conference also. So I think we have to work together to get the success. Thank you.
So the story is that no matter how long you have traveled in the wrong direction, we can always turn around. Thank you, Dr.
Definitely.
Satish Tiwari, for that quote also that you gave. So now we are moving to another area. Children are not small adults, as caterpillars are not small butterflies. Nutrition during the first 1,000 days of life is the foundation for physical, mental, emotional, and immunological well-being. But still, exclusive breastfeeding is happening only up to 6 months, only in 54.9%, and complementary feeding is appropriately started only in 42%, and adequate complementary feeding, as Dr. Priya was telling, is seen in only 10%. Now, my question is to Dr. Roopa Ballard. Why exclusive breastfeeding in the initial 6 months is so low, even after succeeding to ensure 6 months paid maternity leave in the organized sector? And why continued breastfeeding till 2 years and beyond is suboptimal?
Yeah, good evening, madam. And at the outset, I would like to thank you and the other organizers for giving me this opportunity to be part of this very prestigious conference. Yes, as we are all being aware that the rates, especially the breastfeeding rates, are very suboptimal. And we cannot go on. I mean, the reasons are multiple. It is not just one factor we could state which would contribute to this particular practice. But when we start asking the mothers, the common reason which comes in their mouth is, I don't have enough milk. And that's where I think we need to help the mothers. All the mothers are aware about the advantages and benefits of breastfeeding, complementary feeding. But when it comes to practice, especially when they move on to the home after discharge, between 4 to 6 months, we are talking about exclusive breastfeeding. There's a lot of difficulty which comes up during breastfeeding, and that's where there is lack of support. And this, I think, is the main reason today that in the community, even though we are having family members in the households, or we have ashas, we have health workers, we have so many programs, I think the hand holding of the mothers is not very not up to the mark. And I think that's one of the reasons. I'm just not stating it. We have conducted a research, the community-based research, where we wanted to do intervention to improve the practices. So we did a qualitative survey, focus group discussions with the mothers, the household members, healthcare workers, and the main reason they stated was lack of support in the community. And we did follow this with an intervention, that is, we had peer counselors and we gave them a multimedia mobile app, and they did the support to the mothers. And this actually it was amazing to see how much the breastfeeding rates improved. So I think that's the main reason. There has to be some system where the support to the mothers can be given to improve the feeding practices.
Thank you for that very practical solutions. So what about breast milk banking and the role of CLMC? So we hear about CLMC, LMC, LSU, etc. Can you enlighten on that?
Yes, ma'am. As we know, we in India have a large burden of largest share of births when we compare to the world statistics, and so the neonatal deaths. We have 30% of the neonatal deaths in the world. So we know that the National Health Mission has come up with various strategies to improve the mortality and morbidity, that is to decrease the morbidity and the mortality. And strengthening, promoting, protecting breastfeeding is a critical strategy. And human milk, we all know, has a lot of advantages in improving the health status of these babies. Next slide. So protection provided by the feeding of the breast milk, especially during sickness, is very much important. We do know that. But there are certain circumstances where the preterm low birth weights and sick babies admitted to the health facilities do not get their mother's milk. There are many situations like that. So there is a need to provide continuous supply of safe breast milk to all these babies admitted in the health facilities so that we improve their survival and the well-being. So this health-based lactation management strategy, which has come up, has comprehensive lactation management center, very good strategy being brought up by our government, is going to make universally the availability of breast milk to all these babies, especially for the sick babies. And this innovative strategy has been tested all over the world, and they have shown us that this brings down the infection rate and improves the survival of these small babies. I think that's the relevance of comprehensive lactation management centers in our center. And of course, we look at the data. We have a huge burden of preterms, low birth weights who require this milk if mother's milk is not available. And so donor milk plays a life-saving role to help these babies to survive. Yeah, this is the Comprehensive Lactation Management Center, which has basically 4 principles, 4 support systems. One is, of course, first and the foremost is supporting breastfeeding, showing the mothers how to breastfeed, tackle all the challenges in breastfeeding, and encourage healthy mothers to feed their baby, excess milk to be donated, and donated milk to be processed and pasteurized and to be fed to these mothers who require, where their mother's milk is not available.
Thank you, Dr. Roopa. I think you have rightly said the biggest challenge is that the baby-friendly hospital initiative is applicable only for 2 days in term babies and 5 days of hospital stay in cesarean babies. Afterwards, what? Actually, in 2016, the Government of India started the MA program, Mother's Absolute Affection Program, for creating awareness, community intervention, and monitoring. But it did not take off in a big way. So we have to start that. And in 2018, we saw the Rajasthan government passing a law telling that no discharge from hospital if woman is unable to breastfeed after delivery. I must say that in Thiruvananthapuram Medical College, SAT Hospital, Dr. Shobha Kumar, our neonatology head, she was insisting on this. And even when there was an abandoned baby who had to go to the social justice department, the care home, she used to insist that the staff should come, stay in the nursery and feed the baby, and then only she will send the baby. So I think hats off to her for that. Now, over to Dr. Himabindu Singh. Roughly 1 out of 2 babies get semi-solids by 6 months of age, and the transition to family pot feeding by 1 year of age is very low. What do you think are the issues and the solutions?
Very good evening, madam. Thank you, Madam Elizabeth and the whole team at Kerala Trivandrum for organizing this wonderful conference very close to our hearts. And thank Dr. Satish and the IYCF chapter for giving me an opportunity. Well, I think this is again, as Dr. Roopa has already highlighted, breastfeeding is really a challenge still, and we are also doing a lot of QI initiatives to initiate breastfeeding, and we were successful at, to initiate breastfeeding in the labor room itself through a QI called Mission Shigra, by putting a stamp on the case sheets and discharging them. Without that, the child is not discharged. Then coming to complementary feeding, this is another challenge. Though, we all say that, yes, it has to be started after 6 completed months and what sort of food to be given. But I think these are the few things that still there's so much lack of knowledge among our parents. And they still, even the, not just the uneducated or the lower socioeconomic status, even the educated parents have still been confused when to start the complementary. They still feel it's 4 months. They still have that feeling that breast milk is not enough for the 6 early months of infancy. So they feel that my child is just taking breast milk, they don't see how much is going in. They have a feeling that my child is not growing, maybe I need to add something. So regarding the, either they start early, that sort of problem is there, or some of the mothers, they start quite late. By 9 months, 10 months, still they are only on breast milk. So there's lack of knowledge about the when to start, and they also give some, if they start, they feel the child cannot digest complete the whole food, and they start with some juices and then very watery foods like dal water, rice water, which is not adequate in calories. So these are the reasons, and this could lead to definitely undernutrition. And we have all seen that even though the breastfeeding is going on well, and they suddenly drop between 6 to 9 months. We have seen the road to health charts, and this 6 to 9 months is a very vulnerable period. If the child is not started on proper complementary feeding, we have seen undernutrition in these children. So I think the solutions are definitely parental education, and we have to talk to them to continue breastfeeding and to start proper, nutritious, locally available complementary feeds, not that over-the-counter dabbas or whatever, I don't want to name them, but they're very easily available, and they feel that is the right food which will give the weight gain for the child. We should talk about the good nutritional foods which are locally available, and even the art of feeding is very, very important. Many mothers force feed them, and they don't allow even the developmental milestones, the hand-mouth coordination, and they have the critical window is there where the different tastes have to be introduced, and lumpy food has to be introduced. All these things, the knowledge is not there. So the improper feeding habits and the responsive feeding is not there in most of the children. So they may also have failed to have proper complementary feeding. And so a lot of myths are also associated with this complementary feeds, hot foods, cold foods. So I think we need to really go through a good parental education programs, and actually practically helping them, like as breastfeeding. We need to handhold this parents, and even in the Anganwadi or in the community, or when they come for hospital visits, we should utilize the opportunity through the IYCF centers. We should have the CLMCs can also take care to give this practical tips.
Thank you, Dr. Himabindu. As you have rightly said, how the thickness, it should not fall off from the spoon, and the density of the food also. Breast milk, roughly 70 kilocalories in 100 ml, and the complementary food is supposed to give 80 to 100 kilocalories per 100 ml or 100 grams, whereas the dilute food is going to give only 30 kilocalories. And Dr. Priya had also reinforced that 20 ml per kg is all what they can take, and it should be energy dense, nutrient dense, and how to increase the calorie and the nutrients by adding oil, ghee, jaggery, and germinated foods, etc. was highlighted. And even when a baby is breastfed, roughly 500 ml of breast milk is going, see the energy gap happening from 6 months to 9 months to 23 months. And see the iron gap. Very little iron is there in breast milk, but it is 50% is bioavailable. But when the stores are gone after say 6 months, the iron gap also widens. And this shows that in the second year of life, even when complementary foods are given, there is an energy gap, protein gap, iron gap, vitamin A gap. And see here, that is foods and snacks are given, but no breast milk. Again, there is an energy gap, and breast milk and 3 meals are given, no snacks. Again, there is a gap. So there should be a transition to family pot feeding with 5 food groups, 5 colors, 5 times in rotation, along with breastfeeding. And we have redefined infancy up to the second birthday. And Dr. Himabindu Singh, again, picky eating disorders in children is a big havoc. How to approach?
Yeah, ma'am, this is another area where many of the parents come to us and saying that my child doesn't eat fruits and vegetables, and he's very picky and choosy about, he wants only sweet items, he doesn't eat this, that. There's so much concern. So picky eating is nothing but the child is very fussy, he does selective and choosy eating, and he rejects the familiar foods, and he may also have neophobia. Neophobia is something which, rejecting new foods, which is not familiar to him. So it's a very common behavior in early childhood, ranges from 6 to 50%. Usually in the second year it peaks, and by 4th to 5th year, this picky eating may go off. But if it is persistent, may lead to a lot of problems later. So it may be due to early feeding difficulties or late introduction of lumpy foods, and the pressure to eat, when you tell them, please, this has to be avoided. And definitely picky eating may lead to will definitely lead to micronutrient deficiency, especially iron, zinc, selenium, and vitamin D. And the dietary fiber is also low because these children tend to eat less of fruits and vegetables. And if this is persistent, it may by 5 years, it usually child may come back to normal eating, but if it is persisting, may lead to a developmental difficulty, and may in adolescence also may lead to thinness and stunting. So we need to approach this children quite early. I think by just taking a history about the diet content and what they are for family dynamics, they are feeding dynamics, how it is. So even the history of constipation will tell us that the child is not eating enough of fiber. So this history should be taken. And when you examine the child, see, most of the children may have a normal weight trajectory because they may have, they may be good in calories and proteins, but not good in micronutrients and fiber. So we have to look for micronutrient deficiencies, anemias, and if the weight and BMI also need to be checked, but some of the scales are there which are validated, questionnaires can be followed, and then we need to manage them by counseling, especially parental counseling, educate the parents about early introduction of these foods, especially the fruits and vegetables, and having that all of them eating together, the family pot, that is very important to set the right messages to the child. And this including the bitter taste, and all the foods need to be introduced quite early. It's not just the sweet foods. So this will help them, and the feeding should be without any pressure. A responsive feeding habit should be introduced to the child. Now, this eating disorders, these are little major health problems. This is a major mental health issues actually. So typically seen in adolescents, which females are more prone. There are typically 3 types: anorexia, bulimia, and binge eating. We all know about anorexia nervosa, which is actually eating disorder characterized by abnormally low body weight. Though the girl is very thin, and because of body image and other issues, she feels she's actually fat, and she has an intense fear of gaining weight, and they may develop strange eating habits. They avoid, they very monitor every bite they're eating, and they may go for excessive exercising and rapid weight loss techniques, and they may be associated with other mental health issues like anxiety and depression. So these children need to be seen by a psychiatrist. We can definitely help them, pediatricians, by at least looking at the early signs and symptoms, and take the help of a psychiatrist, support feeding, and then we need to go for CBT and medications also if it is quite associated with anxiety and depression. Bulimia is an emotional disorder. Here the child is actually binges and then vomits after eating. We can suspect when the child is spending a lot of time in the bathroom, and they have body image issues also. They may use laxatives, other treatments to prevent weight gain. Associated with anxiety and other disorders may be there. Here also the treatment is again counseling. Psychiatrists help may be required, antidepressants, behavior modification. Family has a big role to support, and nutritional counseling has to be done. Binge eating, they eat a large quantities of food, but without purging. And this also requires a behavior therapy, medications, and psychotherapy. So we all need to know about these eating disorders because they are quite common. It's not so uncommon in India, though we feel that is only these disorders out of developed countries, but we are seeing very, very commonly nowadays in India too. So we need to be aware of all this.
Thank you, Dr. Himabindu, for that excellent narration of all the eating disorders. I think what she mentioned is the responsive feeding. We should promote responsive feeding and avoid non-responsive feeding. There are 3 types of non-responsive feeding. One is the indulgence type, where the child controls the feeding situation. And the second is the uninvolved type, where the caregiver ignores the child during meals. The third is the pressurizing or the controlling type. All these 3 are not desirable. It should be a pleasurable thing, a family time for the child, and not and in a media-free zone, in a media-free time. So, Rajasekharan sir is our professor who taught us obstetrics and gynecology. Sir, adolescent girls' eating patterns among prospective mothers are also not optimum. What are the reasons and the solutions?
Thank you, Dr. Elizabeth, Dr. Indumati, and all the other members of the organizing committee for permitting me to share some thoughts on these very, very important topics. As you know, if you look at the dietary patterns among the adolescent girls, lot of things could be identified. For example, one of the very common thing will be snacks, use of snacks, usually energy dense food while watching TV or while doing the very common, especially the breakfast. Once you skip the breakfast, the whole pattern of intake on that particular day is upset, resulting in irregular meals. And this result in wide use of fast food also, because there is no moderation for cooking. And the access also is very easy in our Swiggy, Zomato, everything is available so that you can get food within no time. Then overuse of chocolates, sweetened drinks, too much calories and preservatives also are ingested. Along with this, you find that there is a low consumption of fruits and vegetables. So ultimately, lack of physical activity leading on to obesity because they are consuming a lot of unaccounted calories. And it has become, just like an epidemic, it has become very serious in states like Punjab and Kerala. Kerala is second to Punjab. We find that nearly around 15% of school-going children are either overweight or obese. And if you look at the government sector and the private sector, you find that affluence play a major role. That is, private schools, you find that the overweight and obesity. I think all these should be viewed very seriously in the light of increasing use of the junk foods. And when you come to the pregnant women, we find that in our hospitals, nearly 60% of these pregnant ladies are either overweight or obese. Naturally, a myriad of complications can be anticipated. The GDM was hardly 3% while I was doing my post-graduation. Now it is almost 30%, tenfold increase over the course of around 30 or 40 years. Like that, hypertensive disorders, then labor problems, the tardy progress labor, difficult cesarean, a lot of complications. And even the aftermath is passed on to the next generation as the metabolic syndrome. So I think the pregnant women, there is an increased craving for such food also. And the nuclear families tend to promote such eating pattern. And another thing which has come up recently is the changing working pattern, because most of these women are working from home. So again, the eating pattern also is changing, and ready access to the online food chains also another very undesirable thing. And how to control, I think it's rather a difficult job, because the wide propaganda for the junks happening through the visual media. Every 1 hour you find some sort of an advertisement, either for the Pepsi or for the pizza and all those things. So it's very difficult to convince people about the advantages of the natural thing. So to start with, I think we should advise on the breakfast on time. With a good start, everything will be taken care of. And it should be emphasized that a lot of milk, egg, fruits, vegetable, etc. should be included, along with the adequate exercise, and a big no to junks. And these are some of the things which I should emphasize at this point. Thank you.
Sir, that was very practical solution that you have given regarding nutrition related issues in pregnant and lactating mothers. What strategy will work?
I think you may notice that the field of midwifery has been witnessing a lot of medicalization as well as commercialization in the last 2 or 3 decades. And there is no wonder that we tend to overlook very basic issues of pregnant women, such as breastfeeding, and message across to the parturian, that is, your eating habits will affect the baby. Without any ambiguity, you like to tell them that this is the sequelae which is likely to happen if your eating habits are abnormal. Okay, this can be during consultation, then it can be displayed in the hospital waiting area. It can be included in antenatal cards, etc., etc. And these ideas should be reinforced every time with appropriate IC materials. And it is equally important that the family members should also be involved in such activities. Otherwise, it will become an ineffective exercise. And we have to emphasize on the good quality, good healthy eating habits, and the utilization of locally available seasonal resources, which are very important nutrients by way of minerals, vitamins, etc., along with the supplementation of calcium and iron. And so we should utilize every opportunity to educate. But at the same time, we should not scare them, because an occasional piece of pizza or a burger is not going to be a crime. So to summarize, I should say that a voluntary effort on the part of the clinician is needed to control the increasing use of junks, so that the next generation will be more healthier. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, sir, for enlightening us on the transgenerational effect also. I think this chart is very interesting, which came up from Institute of Medicine way back before the turn of the millennium. That is, the weight gain during pregnancy should be based on the pre-pregnancy BMI. I think still the knowledge and the teaching is that 10 to 12 kg is okay. See, underweight mother can gain 12 to 18 kilograms, whereas the overweight need to gain only 6 to 12, and the obese, it is put to 6.8 kilograms. So this information is also seems to be very important to be passed on. So now we have the public health man with us, that is Dr. Anish here. Dr. Anish, please outline the nutrition related programs in our country.
Good evening all. First of all, I would like to thank Ma'am Elizabeth Ma'am for this opportunity to stand before the wonderful audience. So I am actually coming from public health. Public health has got so much diversity across India. When I am sitting in Kerala, that will be very much different from a person sitting at Bihar. But for a clinician, that kind of a diversity may not be there. Look at the health status of our country, or what we have achieved maybe last 10 years. So it is actually a marginal difference. Maybe in Kerala it is too marginal compared to an average Indian state. So we have got a lot of public health programs with us, but we are not actually making up to the mark. Out of the 5 national social security schemes, 3 are directly nutritional program. It is something good, but something bad also, because why you are keeping nutrition as a heart of your social security, that means you are not able to take care of other things. Nutrition is a basic parameter. That means even the basic parameter of our people is not addressed. Out of the 5, midday meal that we know, and it is actually a wonderful program that is there maybe all over India. ICDS, even though it has got some issues, for example, it may be taking care of children and pregnant mothers and some part of the lactating mothers also, but it has introduced the feeding program for adolescents and elderly, but it is very patchy. And PDS, what happened to PDS? That is provision of provision of food materials for our poor people. What happened for the last 20 or 25 years, that our ration shops are becoming just like they are becoming nominal in giving away food materials. Another 4th program is Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. Even though that is an employment guarantee scheme, it is a nutritional component in it, because it is related to the first Millennium Development Goal, that is eradicate extreme poverty and hunger. Why you are giving occupation or employment to just feed our people? So in a way, out of the 4 programs are related to directly to nutrition, and only 1 program that is left is the pension scheme. And now something positive is happening, that is this portion, that is Prime Minister overarching scheme for holistic nutrition Abhayan, that is otherwise known as National Nutrition Mission, that was started in 2018, is an overarching program, just like that of NRHM that comes to health system. There is another program is coming up, and it will integrate all other programs along with the programs that we have discussed. Vitamin A prophylaxis program, universal iodization program, and all these things will be there in a loop, so that it will be functioning much better. That I think. Ma'am, next slide, ma'am. And here we can see the anemia, because out of the micronutrients, iron may be the only micronutrient that we address as national programs. And we know that, again, what is happening to our rates maybe in the last 10 years. So again, we are actually making very marginal changes in the iron deficiency. So we are integrating the whole programs that is available in taking care of iron deficiency. That is, we have got Anemia Mukt Bharat by integrating all of the programs. But still, we have to think that we do not have much programs maybe for a vitamin B12 deficiency. Even though iron is coupled with folic acid, that is much cheaper, but vitamin B12 is not able to be given to our people. So, and other vitamins like vitamin D, vitamin C, and all other things are not actually given for our people as in a public health program. That is a real concern for us.
Thank you, Dr. Anish. So what are the strategic changes that, as a public health man, that you would suggest for the high impact programs that you have discussed?
Ma'am, still we have got, this is another publication that it's a small publication that we have, and we suggest a multitude of interventions, policy intervention in the next slide. So I am going for some of the slides that we are already addressing, and I am not going to that. We look at the last one, the community approach to nutrition. For example, in Kerala, what is happening to ICDS and what is happening to midday meal program, because our Panchayat Raj system is very strong. The Panchayats are giving additional food materials other than grains. For example, they are giving egg, they are giving green leafy vegetables to ICDS units, and the children are fed with these kinds of vegetables and fruits and all other things. That is one model that we can use maybe other part of country. Sometimes it may be happening in other part of country also. Another thing is we have to use the cutting edge evidence for our nutrition related program. Still, we are giving elemental iron for maybe our anemia program, Bharat program and all. And there is a lot of evidences are coming out that there is elemental iron is not going to be absorbed from your intestine, and it is going to hinder the microbiota of your intestine. And sometimes it may be poisonous to the healthy microbiota. So we cannot address a food deficiency using an element like iron. If the food materials, if there is a deficiency of food materials, we have to address it with food. So that kind of things you have to incorporate in our program. And the effective utilization of available food delivery system is another thing that we have to use. So these are the things we have to incorporate. The first three things I think we are incorporating. And a lot of questions are there that is unanswered question in our nutrition related program. For example, something related to our normality. Even though we are saying that 60% of our women is suffering from iron deficiency, what is our normal iron? That is actually another question. Even though in our day-to-day practice, we are saying that maybe 90% of our population is vitamin D deficient. Is it real vitamin D deficiency, or is it because of some other normality is there for Indians that we do not know? Another thing is, can we address the dietary deficiency using tablet that I have already another thing is, do we have granular data that, for example, we are giving iodized salt for each and every person in our country, but in our coastal area, the land itself contains a lot of iodine, and even the food they eat also contains a lot of iodine. The iodine, over intake of iodine, just like that can happen in case of vitamin A in an affluent child. If you take overnutrition, what is going to happen? These kinds of things should be communicated to the community, and there will be a granular difference. Whatever things you are given in a deficient area or in an area that is marginalized may not be different from an affluent area. That kind of changes in granularity should be there. Another thing is, still we are focusing on grains for our food programs. We have to add more fruits, vegetables, and all other food materials containing micronutrients. Even we have to address food preferences also. So these things should be addressed, and we have to go for a real life cycle approach, because as more and more people are there, elderly people are there in our community. As our community is shifted to the elderly age group, we have to concentrate on the food choices and food availability of our elderly people also. So these kinds of strategic changes should be there to be in our national programs. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Anish, for that nice overview. I think in most of the pediatric sessions also we hear that vitamin A, like massive doses, 9 doses to everybody is not needed. It should be a targeted approach like that. Most often it is in paper only. When people go there, they say there is short supply, etc. And I think the iron gap, addressing iron gap, Dr. Anish was stressing. Delayed is something what we can, somebody should mute yourself. Mute yourself. Naveen, please mute yourself, Naveen. So delayed cord clamping is one, promoting breastfeeding, biannual deworming, dietary diversity, then avoiding anti-nutrients is also very important. But we were focusing only on supplementing IFA. And it was 100 milligram iron which was given to a 25 kilogram child in the school health program. And it was so much overdose. Now the government has come out with the, instead of the entry coated to sugar coated 60 milligram. And for pregnant women, from 100 tablets, it has been raised to 180. For lactation also 180 tablets. Then bi-weekly iron is now encouraged to be started from 6 months onwards. Then junior WIPS for school-going younger children. Then WIPS program. Each tablet has got a different color, and also WRA, that is women in the reproductive age group. I think more important than that is that we should understand and study what are the normal hemoglobin cutoff levels. 9 and 10 is not normal. It is 11, 11.5, 12, etc. So that should be studied. And the iron-rich food. And when we think of iron-rich food, most of the vegetable sources are less bioavailable. The heme iron is better absorbed. And anti-nutrients. We used to think that taking an amla will help us because it has got a lot of vitamin C. But now the NIN study says that amla has got a lot of polyphenols, which is the antioxidant, which is an anti-nutrient to iron. They say that we can take a guava will be better than the amla for promoting iron. And iron and vitamin C, the ratio also should be there. Phytate to iron ratio should be there. And looking, as Dr. Anish was mentioning, looking beyond the palm is also very important. This sort of pigmentation tells us about megaloblastic anemia. B12 is a big problem, especially in strict vegans. And if the mother is deficient, it can be a big problem in the younger baby also. And this is the 6x6x6 strategy. 6 beneficiaries, 6 goals, 6 interventions, 6 institutional mechanisms. You can go to the website and download it. And the Global Hidden Hunger Index was, for the first time, it was defined in 2013. And see, Sub-Saharan Africa, India, and Afghanistan. These are the only 3 places where it is alarmingly high. That is, it is a cumulative index of zinc deficiency, which is chosen as an indicator for stunting, then iron deficiency anemia and vitamin A. So where are we? We have to move a lot from this. Now we go on to another area, that is the lifestyle diseases, the junks and all. So over to Dr. Rekha Harish. Summarize the IAP junks guideline and discuss the role of general pediatrician in the practical implementation of this. Over to Dr. Rekha Harish.
Wonderful invite and helping me in learning nutrition basics from you and your team today. If you want me to summarize junks in a short span of few minutes, I'll just touch the brief salient points. In the era when the day starts in the morning with cereals, ready-made cereals, and health drinks, it lands in the school canteen. I'm talking of a child. Then the child lands in the school canteen with something, whatever fancies him, a burger and a Coke. And then he comes back and the parents are not there. He watches TV with the pack of chips and chocolate at home, prefers not to eat food, and then rushes to tuition and comes back, and sometimes when he is performing very well in academics, his dada, dadi, nana, nani, they are ready with chocolates. So in this era, when the every environment is so congenial or so obesogenic, we are talking of junk foods. The first junk food which should strike our mind is the what Dr. Satish Tiwari said, the comes under IMS Act is the tinned milk or the this thing. Then come the tinned cereals. And the nutrition chapter of IAP took this lead under leadership of Dr. Piyush and Dr. Elizabeth also, that they would like to define actually what is junk. To club all the unhealthy foods together, they designed the acronym JUNCS, which comprises of not only food high in fats, salt, and sugars, but also the ultra processed foods, the nutritionally inappropriate homemade foods, the caffeinated, carbonated, and the colored beverages, and the sugar sweetened beverages. So that is why they try to find out evidence which is in favor of these statements, the recommendation, and many of them for which this scientific evidence was not available, the consensus statement was made. So for coffee, as we see for caffeinated drinks, we had a limit. No caffeinated drink till 5 years of age, and then 1 cup a day. But when we talk in terms of caffeine, we have to take into account the other products also which the child is taking. Some chocolates, some cola drinks, and so many other energy drinks, they are full of caffeine. And when we are talking of the child, he has consumed the caffeine in total. And we are well aware of the caffeine toxic effects and the side effects. Then when we are talking of fruit juices or what to talk for beverages, water is supposed to be the best drink. Whole fruits have to be encouraged, and they should be encouraged right from 6 months of age. Fresh homemade fruit juice may be allowed without added sugars, with a limit of 125 ml per day for 2 to 5 years and 250 ml per day for 5 years. But the main thing is that basic stress should be on the whole fruit, which not only helps in development, but also in the physical growth. Regarding guidelines for school, the ban on sale of HFSS has been a struggle for Uday Pai Foundation, PIL, and some of us also since 2013. And a lot of struggle, a lot of inputs have gone in. The very fact that the food industry people were inducted into this expert committee, you can imagine the Mahabharata, which used to occur in all these meetings. With great difficulty, we could lay our hands on 200 meters recommendation around the schools, but finally it has now come back to 50 meters. Then ensuring availability of foods. Whenever you ban something, the first question which school asks you is what should be made available in the schools. Then it comes our role in guiding them and having a national school canteen policy which can guide all the schools around the country to make available healthy snacks and nutritious meals for all these children alike. Now, this is again a very gray zone right now in our country, where the directions were there to all the CBSE schools, but still date, for the last 7 years also, I have to give that certificate or that order to all the CBSE schools anywhere in the country whenever asked for, because the implementation of such law is also a big, huge responsibility. Then providing availability of drinking water. Drinking water, when what's not available in schools or the parents were not sure about the hygienic practices, they used to land up in sending cold drink bottles to the children, along with the children. So ensuring safe drinking water being available in the schools is also our responsibility. Then for food labeling, ma'am, next slide, please. Guiding for labeling or advertisement. Advertisement, as already pointed out, every 1 hour of TV advert has 25 minutes of advertisements, and 60% of these advertisements are related to food. So a child who is watching TV since the age of 6 months, since infancy, is more attracted towards these ads, which are loud, which are catchy, which are more colorful, and rather than the main content, and they consider it as a part of the content. So as low as a 1-year-old child can recognize these logos of McDonald's or any other food items, and they can go on and try their pestering powers on their parents and their caretakers to ensure them. So we need to concentrate on them. Advertisements have been, it's a huge area. And imagine the plight of the country or the world where the soft drinks are sponsoring sports events, where the our media personalities who do not consume anything of that sort are advertising for that. So this is the most sad part where we all need to create awareness. So therefore, what the group suggested was to have a differential GST on all the high fat, salt and sugar foods, and also as compared to the healthy food and beverages, and ensure availability of all these healthy food menus even in the markets and the restaurants, and curb the round the clock availability. These days the junks are available 24/7. When the parents are sleeping, the children as low as 3 or 4 years can order their junk of their choice and have their meals. And imagine the plight of the child who's exposed to a stranger also at the midnight. Then regarding the marketing strategies, there should be no sale on food items. The ek ke saath ek free. This is the most sad part of the advertising policy, which is hampering everything, because everything which is free is readily acceptable and is never accounted for. So these things have to be curbed. Then the ultimate change will be brought out only by the behavior change, because we are not looking in terms of the short gains like losing weight or just improving appearance before marriage or something like that. Our target as a pediatrician is achieving lifelong behavioral change, so that these lifestyle changes, they become a positive behavior which is acquired during childhood and it persists during adulthood. And we have been through a process of all these, and I was associated with many of these activities, submitting the document to the High Court, submitting to the ministry, and finalizing in the Nielsen's guidelines. Everything was a part of it. And we were expecting the FSSAI to finally finalize on the pack labeling as traffic light labeling regulations, green to go for it, having 80% of the items from green label to be available in the schools. But unfortunately, rather, I went into depression when I saw the order here that it was again restriction of ban sale of junks only 50 meters around the schools, and there was no mention of the traffic light regulations. It was a very sad day which I faced, and the policy, the recommendations have been just diluted. So you can imagine the amount of pains, the amount of energy which goes into these legislations, and formation of these legislations, recommendations, formation of these recommendations, and what happens actually when they are released, and then again when they are implemented. another sad part is that we are a part of advertising for healthy, so-called health drinks, because now what we are observing that the obesity is increasing not only because of increased intake of unhealthy food, but excessive intake of healthy food is another this thing. We find children consuming Bonvita because Pediasure, you can take any health drink. They are being advertised as health drinks and they are actually unhealthy. I say they should be placed under sugar sweetened beverages, and all the pediatricians should have the awareness on this aspect, and they should see, if you start reading the labels, you'll get the answer. You see the amount of sugar in Protein X, you see the amount of sugar in Pediasure, all these health products. I am not blaming anyone, it's our fault. Children start jumping by having 3 or 4 teaspoons in the morning, and they feel that they are growing. The parents are very satisfied that my child is so active, and they are being promoted for even winning races. So this, our focus should be that there should be no food ad in the kids program, at least till 9 p.m. There should be a strict law for misleading ads against both, not only the manufacturer, but also on the media personality who has advertised for it. They should be made responsible. What is the fun of if they are earning 5 crores and they are being imposed a fine of only 10 lakhs for misleading ad, they will happily give away the 10 lakhs. We need to curb our practices, increase the awareness, curb the tendency to manipulating research. The IMS Act has been made, but what is happening? There is no scare of the punishment. Nothing happens actually. We are reporting what is happening, but actually what is happening, you all know about it. Then we have been, for the last 7 years, I was also a participant to this, and still I am a part of the front of pack food labeling at FSSAI. We have been a part of it. I used to think that if we label the food as a traffic light signal, that this food item has high fat and it is marked red, people will stop taking it. But what I observe now, I feel as a part of that group, it is a very difficult thing to do. The front of pack labeling to do is the most difficult part of it. That is why FSSAI left it for has formed a separate committee for that, and we have been working for the last 6.5 months on this. If you label everything as green, people will start taking it more, thinking it is very healthy. And then if you start excessively taking it, because nobody is reading that it is for one serving. Nobody has ever read on the label what is the serving size. The serving size, even in a 200 ml of juice, which is sugar sweetened beverage, is labeled. The label is for 100 ml. And this happens that nobody stops taking the SSB after 100 ml. He has to consume. So my plea is that every labeling which should be
Madam,
done,
I think we are
that we should
time is a bit limited, madam. Excuse me. I think we have to stop. Okay.
So we
can take another 5 or 7 minutes.
The children and the community says that we don't need junk food and we don't need any legislations for this. And with this, I thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Rekha, Harish, for that presentation and all the preamble of all that. I think we should be going for the traditional food, which gives 100 kilocalories, 100 grams. Now 100 grams is giving 600 kilocalories or even up to 1,200 kilocalories. We should be going from the high energy, low nutrient to the low energy, high nutrient, as Dr. Rekha Harish was telling, the traffic signal type of labeling. I think there should be innovative and ongoing behavioral change, self-weighing, self-monitoring, family activities, group exercise, fat taxation. Then Michelle Obama said salad bars to classrooms, compulsory PT periods, even a proactive message on stairs. you are burning 0.5 calories. You are now burning 0.1 kilocalorie. Like that, then we will not take the elevators. I think there is a nutrition-friendly school initiative by WHO. And in this preamble, we must say that Dr. T.U. Sukumaran started child-friendly school initiative program with 5 clauses. I think IAP should add the 6th clause as the nutrition-friendly school initiative and take it to the forefront. So with this, I think we finish, and the chairpersons can ask 1 or 2 pressing audience questions. Otherwise, they can put it in the group also, we can answer.
Thank you, madam, for that wonderful session, and all the panelists. I thank. A very important topic, and everyone has done the topics very well. And there are only 1 or 2 questions, and I think we can take it that way. One is from Dr. Avinash Benzal, whether the breast milk banks supply milk after discharge from the hospital. Dr. Satish Tiwari can answer this question, I believe.
Yeah, can I?
Yes.
Can I take it up? Yeah.
Yes, madam.
See, donor human milk is basically not going to substitute the breast milk. It is just an add-on till the mother establishes her lactation. So in the lactation, in the human milk banks or the comprehensive center, lactation center, what we do is we encourage the mothers to learn breastfeeding and establish breastfeeding before she is discharged from the hospital. So very few cases where mother is not available will go with the donor milk, rather than, I would say, majority of the mothers would start breastfeeding before they are discharged from the hospital.
Yes, there is another question from Dr.
Hello.
Geeta Patil. That is to Dr. Himabindu. What are the causes of picky eating, and what is the approach in handling picky eating? Whether is there a role for psychologists? Dr. Himabindu, please. Elizabeth, madam, I think she is not there.
Sir, can you repeat the question?
What are the causes of picky eating, and what is the clinical approach to this problem?
Usually, picky eating is one of the reasons I showed. That is the non-responsive feeding behavior in the family. That may be the reason. One. Second, very few children may have some sort of an infantile anorexia or some chronic disease which may have to be addressed. But most of the time, we find that these picky eaters have normal weight. So they and still they may be given more of the so-called healthy food like health drinks, etc. And finally, they end up as overweight and obesity. I think behavioral modifications, counseling, that is the answer.
If yes, Dr. Tiwari.
Can you just repeat Dr. Bansal's question?
Bansal is asking.
Can you repeat Dr. Bansal's question?
Yes, Dr. Tiwari, breast milk bank, whether they supply milk after discharge from the hospital is the question. Whether breast milk banks supply human milk after discharge from the hospital.
Something regarding 4 months. No, that madam has already answered. There was some question related to the feeding at 4 months.
Pardon, let me see.
Hello.
Yes, I will see. Actually, it was regarding father, an important link and often not involved. Building breastfeeding support group more as nuclear family, maybe a neighbor, health worker, etc. And I think this was what he had given. And
Dr. Bellard madam has already answered that.
Yes.
No problem.
Okay.
I think breast milk should not be sold for money. That is the first thing we must. It is donated by a mother to save a baby, and there are some companies who are trying to market it, and we should be very alert about it.
Yes, madam. I think that is a message we need to give. It is not for sale, and it is definitely not for the sale. Yeah.
Ballad madam, what I feel before we discharge the baby, the proper lactation should be established. So there is no question of giving milk from the milk bank.
Okay.
Once we establish the lactation.
Can I add something, ma'am?
Yes. Yes, yes,
Dr.
sir.
Balraj, please.
Yeah, because in Rajasthan model, we have started community milk. So even after discharge from the NICU, 20 days, any baby requiring the breast milk, that is provided from the CLMC. So, and we have some districts, we have already started this project. So if there is a need for the breast milk, we are not selling it, but it is given free of cost from the milk bank. And we have a collection of even in 1 crore ml of milk, they are in the milk banks of Rajasthan. So we don't have any problem in providing that, and that's for the community participation.
That is excellent.
Thank you for the information, Doctor.
And
If there are
one more question from Dr. Anish sir. Yeah, can we universal vitamin A prophylaxis program instead of vitamin A prophylaxis program, like we have got a so much from the universal iodinization program. So now there is no iodine deficiency in. So can we start this type of program like universal vitamin A prophylaxis program rather than vitamin A prophylaxis, which is going on?
Yes, sir. Actually, that will be depending upon the evidence that available. Maybe statewide evidence should be there. For example, where the deficiency is it going to be a problem? For example, if you give iodine for a population where their food is rich in iodine, sometimes the Hashimoto's thyroiditis may be a big problem compared to a goiter. So that kinds of granular evidence should be generated, because in India it is not a big problem to generate that kind of an evidence, and our strategy should be based on evidence.
Yes, sir. Thank
so
you,
we
sir.
can have comprehensive program, but it should be based on evidence, and it should be people friendly, and it will be useful for the people. That's all. So we cannot have a uniform program for the entire country, because the need of the country is different in different aspects, and we have to assess the need first. Then we have to give the program.
Thank you, sir.
I think with that we will close the session, and I once again thank Dr. Elizabeth and the wonderful team of panelists for on an important issue with social importance. Thank you all once again for giving me this opportunity to chair this session. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have come to the end of the academic session. Now, to sum up, I invite Dr. Kristen Indumati, President Nutrition Chapter Kerala, President NNF, past President IAP Trivandrum, and Senior Consultant Pediatrician and Neonatologist SUT Hospitals Trivandrum. Kindly take over, ma'am.
I think, can you hear me? Yeah. Yes. I think for lack of time, I won't go into details, but really what a wonderful start for this evening, for this IYCNCON and HMBCON 2020 with the apt theme of Nourish and Flourish, and with Dr. Ketan, Dr. Bakul Parekh, and Dr. Elizabeth Madam welcoming the faculty and delegates. Truly, we enjoy the academic feast. And speakers have done very, very well. And I think I won't go into the details, mainly because of lack of time. A few words from like Priya has really cracked the bottleneck in complementary feeding. And thanks to her, Dr. Srinivasan enlightened us on the nutritional aids and the importance of breastfeeding and the supplements which are to be received for the preterm and the SAM children. And Dr. Shrija very clearly spoke on COVID and how a balanced diet is more important than individual supplements which can protect. I think these three speakers are really done, and the panel, I think it's really a great initiative by Madam being the moderator, and all the panelists have done very, very well. I think we are very clear about the messages. I wish we take it into the community, especially about junk foods, and the guidelines which have come is all something new, which we all have to learn and take it up in the community. And as Anish sir has really said, the community approach to nutrition, each state is different, and we should have evidence and effective utilization of the food which we We need to, the available food delivery system should be efficient. And Elizabeth Madam was a wonderful moderator. Madam, thank you, and all the panelists, all the faculty. It was a wonderful session. Thanks.
Thank you, Madam. Now, may I request Dr. Somashekar R, Professor of Pediatrics, Sri Balaji Medical College, and Secretary IYCF for his remarks. So, over to you.
Thank you. It is a wholesome treatise, I must say. For a single-minded, you see, mission, one all must have a devotion. I think all are here to protect and promote and support breastfeeding, right from the Priya's introductory and on complementary bottleneck up to the session moderation by the panelists and by the MIYCN strategy and the bottlenecks, everything. I think we now move forward to a vision that how best we are able to implement and succeed in our goal. That should be our motto. I think flourish and nourish would be an apt and ideal theme for all of us to ponder. And I congratulate the IAP Thiruvananthapuram branch and the IAP Kerala taking up this in a very luminary way. Thank you very much for the wonderful session.
Thank you, sir. Now for the closing remarks, I invite President IAP Trivandrum, Dr. Bennett Silam, who's also a consultant pediatrician at the Coastal Specialty Hospital. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. First of all, I congratulate Elizabeth Madam and Dr. Priya Srinivasan and Indumati Madam and all the organizers who are arranging this session. And it was an excellent talk by all the first three speakers with the chairing. And the panel discussion also went very well. And our main motto is to prevention of undernutrition and prevention of obesity. To achieve this, we have to start from the breastfeeding and complementary feeding and child-friendly food for children. Anyway, starting with our program with the help of Alive and Thrive India, I congratulate all the organizers and panelists for having a wonderful section. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now we have come to the end of the program of day one. Hope to meet you all tomorrow. Thank you and good night.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye.